Sometimes in our lives we come across people that we feel is going to make a difference in the world by doing what they do. So Zaid Isa flew in from Durban to chat to me about his upcoming career that's being launched globally. Now, I found the story very interesting from the perspective that many times we sit back, look at people not knowing their full potential. But this time, I can assure you, by staying tuned to this episode, we look at a life of motivation and follow that journey as it takes off into another realm. Welcome to the show. Zaid Isa is here finally, and he's going to talk to me about his life. I want to talk to you about your career, but because we're sitting on 2 episodes, we decided to talk to you about your career. Before that, I think it's very important, Zaid, that we look at the people behind their careers first. I think that for the public to understand what you do, we need to understand you.
Sure.
So I normally ask the most difficult question that I can ask people, and that is, who is Zaid Isa?
Zaid Isa is, it is a difficult question.
I know, but a lot of people don't think about this because I think people think they know everything about themselves until they get asked, tell me about yourself.
I think
they get stuck.
The easiest way that I can say, so far, I can start like that. So far, Zaid Isa is, I think, a person who is on a path to live according to...
I don't want your wife sitting down saying, what nonsense is he talking? So tell me the exact story.
I'm quite an honest person, and I'm the type of guy who actually thinks about these things. So, yeah,
I worked that out.
I'm someone who wants to do what makes myself happy, and I believe living with a purpose and living through your passion, because I believe everyone has a specific passion, and mine is obviously singing or the creative aspect of myself. That's what gives me that insane feeling of aliveness and almost, I don't want to say genius and sound.
That's fine.
But something special comes out that I can't really explain, or I wouldn't be able to break it down for you and explain it to you. But something special happens within me, and I think people also experience that. And Zaid Isa is a person, a family man, a husband, a son, and I think I'm someone who wants to make people happy. And as we were discussing earlier, I believe, like, spiritually, I think the entry point is self-awareness. And for me, and my journey through life has made me learn that self-awareness and self-reflection is really key towards moving in a direction that I think people would be happy or...
So you always believe that your purpose was greater than doing the normal thing, getting up every day, driving to work, and doing the same thing every day. You believe that your purpose was greater?
I wouldn't say like I had a firm belief, but I think we all have a sort of niggle, or like this thing that tells you at the back of your mind, you know what, this is not all that is, you know. I think everyone knows on some level, maybe on a very subconscious level, that there is something there.
That you're destined for greater things. And
I wouldn't call it greater things as opposed to people who are not doing it are doing lesser great things. I think because of the nature of living from a certain space.
I want to counter you on that one. Because what do I define as greater things? I think I define greater things to be the things that you believe that you can achieve, but where other people believe that they're generally out of the realm of normal operations. I'm going to take you one step back on my journey when somebody said and made a remark 15 years ago that I think he lives in a dream world. Who works in television all day? So for me, it wasn't about that being on a social hierarchy. It was the fact that I had to try and reach something that people didn't think was a normal operation, and today it is. And I think maybe you're just on that same trajectory right now.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think when people go from the traditional and norm and they suddenly break out and are doing like something no one else has done, or they're doing their own thing, it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. sometimes it's out of concern. Sometimes it's out of genuine concern that, why are you going in this direction? It's so, just stay safe, But once again, I think certain people find something within them that they just can't deny, and they live with that feeling, because it is a feeling. It doesn't make sense,
But so you traveling along in life now, so you do the normal thing, and that's go to school, do the typical thing, get married at a certain age, have a child, making sure you're standing at the same spot every day, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
What defines that day where you decide, I need to stretch out and start reaching for this dream that's burning inside me somewhere?
I think every day you're standing at that bus stop, or you're doing, for a long time it all happens unconsciously, and then along the way you start to realize, something else needs to happen, something else
and
needs to happen.
you make a conscious decision.
And there's probably one moment in your life, or a combination of many small moments, that make you at some point realize, what, there's something more. And for me it was, to be honest, it's a funny thing, I say uncapped Wi-Fi actually helped me change a lot, because I used to, I was like stuck in my own pattern, trying to do things, and I came across some motivational videos and some new information, and information is key. New information is key to change, because everything starts in the mind and the mindset. So
I know what you're going to say next. You sound like Bob Proctor, and you're going to tell me
it was actually a Bob Proctor video.
Why did I know this? And it's the power of manifestation, and you're just unlocking that key to the universe. No, I get it. I'm into it myself.
Yeah.
So I get it.
So it wasn't only that, though. It wasn't only that. I think what that did was teach me a lot of Islamic principles that I knew mentally. I started to understand them spiritually, and I started to delve more into the inner verse, the inner aspect of my being. And once you do that, you start to realize there's just more to life, more to yourself. And then once I started following my passion, I had a lot of beliefs about myself that I thought were real. For example, I thought I was a lazy person. I thought I was a person who didn't sometimes concentrate. I thought I was just...
So I find it interesting, because I know lazy people that don't believe they're lazy, but then if you believe you're lazy, that sounds really interesting.
but that's not my point.
Yes, of course.
My point is that when I found something that I actually loved to do, I realized it wasn't the fact that I actually was lazy. It was just I was doing things that I didn't want to do. I was doing things that didn't inspire me. I was doing things that didn't motivate me. And when it came to the music things, there was one time I went to work. I went to the military. I worked the whole day. I got into studio at 6 in the evening or 7 in the evening and worked till 6 a.m. Went back to work, and I was still fresh. I literally was fresh. And for someone who thought they was lazy, sort of thinking to myself,
well, but that old notion that goes around that if you do the things that you want to do, you never need to work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Because and somehow experience a very similar thing. People think you work 24/7. I don't. I just do what I do.
You just do what you love.
And that's it. I want to rewind the tape a little bit.
Sure.
I want to talk about your upbringing, about your parents. What was the family home like? What were the motivational times when you reflect back on your childhood? What do you think about?
So childhood was beautiful and challenging, because I come from a wonderful, loving family and a big, extended family. But unfortunately, when I was around 10...
It's the Indian family.
Yeah, but I think...
they're big. They're normally big.
Yeah,
and they're very involved.
Yeah, but I honestly think that's a huge positive.
Yes.
I don't find that to be any...
So that was it was a key factor to your development? A
key factor, I think, in my personality. But when I was about 10, 11 or so, my parents got divorced. So that was a huge... that was, for me now, when I look back, this is one of the things that actually made me. Because it challenged me. Yeah, well, at that time, it cracked me. But that was the point in which Allah started to build me as a person, emotionally and mentally.
So you moved off with your dad at the time, or your mom?
My mom, yeah. So I stayed with my mom. Throughout I stayed with my mom, and so that was.
So she kind of brought you up from a solo perspective.
Yeah, so my mom is one of those superwoman.
Superwoman, yeah. But the
2 or
funny thing
3
is
jobs.
but here's the thing. When you go through a divorce process or the husband falls away, the superwoman aspect just kicks in.
Yeah.
And because it's survival mode and she's got the kids and you work with all of that and stuff like that. And I think that many times there's not much lost when 20 years go by and you look back and people survive and they move on and these things define them.
At the end of the day, when you maybe 12 or 13 or 14 or 15, you think it's happening to you. Then once you reach 18, get to college, start working, you realize that everyone has got their own test, and like Allah says, He will test you. Maybe it's not a divorce, maybe it's death, or maybe it's finance, or whatever it is. But once again, like I always believe that Allah takes away one pillar from underneath you, and then I was talking about extended family, and there were like a million other pillars that came there to hold us up, and yeah, once again, I think it's just part of life. Everyone has to grow, and challenge creates growth. And whether it was going to be this in my life, if it wasn't that, it was going to be something else. And
so you go to school and you start your schooling career, you get involved with the normal things that boys are doing and education and all of that, and you get to perhaps the end of your schooling career. Was it there that you decided what path to take, or were you looking at were you still trying to find your space? Because if you look at today, people try to find their space for a very long time.
Yeah, so I finished school when I was 17. So I was the first to campus. I was actually 17 years old. So that's very young. I always thought that I was very good at sports in school. So I was almost all sports first team, and that led me to study sports science. And I also always, because of the nature of being hurt at a really young age, I always wanted to heal people. So I went into biokinetics, physical healing through exercise, and I found a lot of joy from healing people. And I think the passion also linked to the music is that connection with people and taking people from a state of confusion or lack of vibrance within their soul to uplifting them.
You speak a lot about healing the inner aspects and inner dimensions of our existence, a lot about the more esoteric aspects of our existence. Do you believe a big part of you leans towards the spiritualist in you more than the physical aspects of our existence? Are you very in touch with that side?
I try to be. I know that I've learned within myself that if I don't do certain things, I feel terrible. For example, like your salah, if you miss salahs, it almost, if you get used to reading all your salah, alhamdulillah, Allah has granted me that when you start to miss 2 or 3, you feel terrible. It's like you had like a terrible meal. Your body, everything feels that lack of energy, that lack of peace. And that's obviously a sign that everything in the material world of your body is a reflection of your inner state. And one thing that I met a spiritual teacher, and he taught me meditation. And meditation is by far the after salah, by far the most important thing that I need. I can't function if I get too involved in things and forget about the meditation. I can go for a bit, but I can almost feel my mind slipping away into just this mad confusion, excessive thoughts. As soon as you meditate, all the thoughts go away.
The toxicity level.
Most of the beautiful things that happened in my career, especially in the Nasheed career, was when I stopped and I just focused on Deen instead of chasing Facebook and Instagram and followers and this and that. Because at the end of the day, you have to market yourself as your Faizal Sayed Show. You have to, there's a sort of entertainment world has a consuming nature.
Correct.
It consumes your everything, and meditation and salah and
just creates that balance. The control factor, essentially, through all of that. If you look at where you find yourself today, and I know that you went on, got married, and I'm not certain if you've got children yet, so none yet. That transition, how have you sort of fused that with what you want to do? Because many people say that for you to go successfully, especially into the media and entertainment environment, obviously you need to have that support structure from your partner, because the environment has lots of demands, irrespective.
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, I have to say I have once again support structure from my mom, my sister, my all sides, especially my wife, is amazing. I think she's made as much sacrifice for me as I've had to make for myself, and I think also the fortunate part is she's also a working person. She works really hard. She has a demanding job as well, and I've also had to sacrifice. So we sort of understand the sacrificial aspect of the relationship, and I think it's good to build and develop as a couple, especially in the younger years where you support each other in your goals. And alhamdulillah, I've been fortunate in that aspect.
Sometimes when you think about South Africa, and I sometimes think about this from a career point of view, and especially when you look at career around your locality and from a regional perspective, one sometimes feels that if your ideas and your philosophies sometimes surpass your geographical boundaries, how does one create all that balance? Will you reach your full potential by taking your ideas and exercising that through Durban, Cape Town, Johannesburg, for example? And I know that when we met, one of the key focuses was around what you want to do internationally and abroad. But I want to get into that in the next episode. But on this episode, I want to focus a little bit on that. Did you ever feel at some point, as you started realizing that your calling was calling you and I need to get more involved, and that dream started to get into realization, did you ever feel that you wanted to burst at the seams and there were things that were just limiting you down of not getting there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there are certain limits, but I think those are the limits that once again it comes down to information, what sort of information you're working with. So limits, I think at some times broke me down or demotivated me a little bit, but I think because I was getting the right information from the right people, it always became a thing to just push me more rather than limit me. So you see a limit and it's now a chance to grow. It's a chance to go beyond that limit. And I think as a person, as an artist, as a businessman, because you've got to be a businessman in the entertainment industry, you have to grow. And I always think back if you know when I started and I was successful with my first track, what type of artist would I have been? I would have not grown at all. I would have just stayed at that level.
But that's part of the mission, and that's part of the path that one travels.
And you have to say alhamdulillah, because I put everything into that one first track. I put everything, and it was successful on a national level in terms of like the SABC picked me up and those type of things happened. But in terms of the community, I didn't really get much. I got the likes and the comments, and you meet people in the street, but it didn't take me to that international level. And as far as I want to deny the fact that it was not international standard, the fact that I was not successful proved that my first stuff, the first songs and stuff, and I had to accept that reality, reassess, and alhamdulillah, Allah opened doors on the international scene, and I'm really happy with the product that I have now, and inshallah I hope people see.
You'll get to the next stage, of course.
Yeah.
If I asked you, like we spoke about all the esoteric issues, and I just want to rewind the tape back there, and the calmness and the meditative states and all of that. But I know that everybody has a red button, and that red button is generally fairly explosive. What is it in this life that really irks you off within the context of our society today?
I think because I've felt a great deal of pain as a youngster. I hate when people inflict pain. Not so much, well, physical pain is something, but I think emotionally, because I think the emotional pain is something that...
This is the pain linked up to the divorce?
No. I'm saying like just people inflicting pain to other people, and that type of pain, like
social oppression.
It's very subtle. You may oppress and change someone's life without that person knowing, or even...
This falls under a particular bracket of social constructionism. Okay. So, correct me if I'm right or wrong, But I think that we might be abhorrent to the same things.
Okay.
And that was that, so we have a construct called social constructionism.
Okay.
And that is that all of us and the people that we see today are sometimes not the authentic self. And that's because as we grew up, people decided what they preferred the best color for you is, the best car for you is, and they started developing layers around you, and you start developing into that image and that persona that people want you to be. But alone at night, who is Zaid Isa? He might be somebody else that has a very different view on life and sees things very differently and feels very differently and acts very differently. And so this concept of social constructionism is something that I've just been wanting to break down for a very long time, because I believe that only when someone reaches their authentic self can they dissect that atom. And when they dissect that atom, that's when we have the
But
nuclear
that
power.
goes back to the concept of self-awareness.
Correct.
Most people don't know
Who they really are.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and say that I know who I am.
But you're searching for that person.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is the entry point is that the entry point is starting to realize, is to ask the question of who am I, why do I have certain beliefs. For example, I believed I was lazy, but yet there were certain things that I was definitely not lazy at. So why do I believe this? It's because at maybe some point in my life I did one thing at that point in my life, and I built up an idea of myself. But
it's the same like me asking you a flash question by saying, do you believe that you're overweight today?
I think I am.
By whose standard?
Yeah.
But it's about that. By whose standard?
But I was exceptionally skinny. Yeah. Like, for example, in the gym, people look at me and they're like, but you're not overweight. But in school, I was exceptionally fit and skinny. I was like really skinny. So for me, even though I may appear okay to some people, like to me, I feel like I'm way over the mark.
But that's fine. You're not 16 anymore. It's fine. It's fine.
No, but it's
so going forward, because I want to focus on the next episode purely on the career and what's happening, coming up with the shows that's coming up. We find youth today that are disconnected. There are challenges in this country. They're sitting low levels of education, low levels of motivation. Finances is a problem. With that comes poverty, access to various resources, and sometimes people go into a vicious circle that just spirals all the way down. You find a lot of people in that space, and then you find the people that were in that space that says, I'm not going to spiral down despite all of that, and I will work my way out of that. What is your advice to youth today amidst all the challenges that they face to get out of the rut that they are in?
Once again, it comes down to information. If you surround yourself with the information that you have, that's creating this vicious cycle, without new information, the cycle cannot change. And the easiest way to get information to change is to go to someone who you can see is doing what you want to do. If you want to lead a healthy life, you got to go to someone who looks really healthy and ask them, what are you doing? And don't be afraid to ask them. The worst they can say is no. If you want to make more money, you got to go to someone who's making more money and say, what are you doing to make more money? And you'll find that actually people who are at a next level, if you could say that, then where you are, they were probably at your stage at some time in their life. And people, the worst they could say is no, but I'm pretty sure most people would say, wow, you're actually asking for help. Let me help you. And that's what I've noticed even in my career. I ask people, and I hear many no's. Because in South Africa, there's not many international artists or people who are doing it on international stage. And you just ask. And everyone either doesn't reply or replies. This was in the early days, obviously. And but the people who do reply, you take the information and you move in that direction. You have to ask people who know exactly what they're doing. That's my opinion. And I think for those who are in a position where they feel like they got no other option, you got to be bold and daring. You got to say, I'm going to break out of this thing, and you got to go to people. If you're in a drug-infested area or town, or that's the sort of ideas that are being passed around in the community, you've got to go somewhere, even if it means for a day or half a day or one phone call, find someone and say, how do you live your life? There's nothing wrong with that.
You remind me of a book that I read. It's a very popular book by Richard Branson.
Okay.
And I'm always in spite of all the issues that I might agree or disagree with in the book, the title stands out for me, and that's Screw It, Let's Do It.
Yeah.
And that's one of Richard Branson's most popular books. And I think he's right. At some point, you've just got to say, screw it and let's do it. You know, that's what it is. Zaid, we come back to you on the next episode.
Okay.
Zaid is on my show discussing his life and his motivations. On the next episode, I specifically want to talk to him about his tour coming up in the UK, and then he's got a tour subsequent to that coming up in South Africa with his friends, his international friends and artists, and we're going to talk about that and why you should be supporting that. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.